Today, I'd like to continue our journey through chapter 6 of the Gospel of Matthew and take a particular look at the idea of the sense of deepening our faith. Matthew seems to pick this up as one of his themes. We saw it in Matthew 6. I'd like to look at a few other places in Matthew where that deepening of faith theme comes out. We see it in Matthew chapter 8, verse 26, where it says, Jesus is awakened by the apostles, and he calms the storm at sea. So there is Jesus, and he's snoozing in the boat, kind of taking it easy. And the apostles are all nervous. There's a storm happening, and they're all concerned about it. So they wake Jesus up and say, Jesus, come on. There's a storm happening. Please help us with it. So Jesus calms the storm. But then he turns to the apostles and he says, why are you terrified, O ye of little faith? So again, this expression, you of little faith. Jesus seems to be saying that one of the key things that we have to develop as apostles, as disciples, as followers of Jesus, is the sense of faith and trust in Jesus. Things are going to be difficult. There's going to be storms. Things are going to be hard. There's going to be confusion. It's not always going to be peaches and cream. There's going to be really some difficult times that we're all going to have to face, and Jesus makes us aware of that. But he says, why do you have such little faith in those situations? Just as with our possessions, as Jesus is talking about in chapter 6 of Matthew, the idea of worrying about possessions, worrying about all these things in our life, and the food we're going to eat, the clothes we're going to wear, all of these things. Because we sometimes don't have faith. We don't trust in Jesus that things will work out. There's a sense really in Matthew, one of the themes certainly, Jesus is confronting the apostles, the disciples, his followers, about this idea of faith. Another example of this we see in Matthew chapter 14, verse 31. Jesus is walking on the water at this point. Again, an amazing reality when you think about it. We just say, oh, Jesus is walking on the water, like, this is, so there he is, he's walking on the water. And Peter wants to go to be with him. And he says, well, Jesus is walking on the water. I should be able to walk on the water because I'm a follower of Jesus, right? I mean, if Jesus can do it, I can do it. I think a feeling that we have a lot. We can follow Jesus, so Peter wants to do that. But as soon as he takes a step or two, initial steps seem fine, but then he's like, boom, he starts to sink. And so Jesus reaches his hand out to Peter. Doesn't want Peter sinking. Doesn't. He's the leader of the church. We're gonna sink. So he reaches out and he catches him, holds him up, and he says to Peter, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" So again, it seems to come down to this question of faith. Why is it that in this situation, Peter, who started out initially, I can walk on this water, I can go, and boom, doubt happens. And then when the doubt happens, he sinks. The faith, the lack of faith. So this theme of faith seems to be very important here in Matthew. The idea that we should place our trust completely in Jesus. Again, this is something that's very hard for most of us to do because we're used to being in control and we're used to achieving certain goals and ends in our lives. We want to work hard and provide for our families. We do all those things that are so important, and yet, when it comes down to it, do we really trust in Jesus, or do we trust in John McNamara? Do we trust in ourselves, or do we trust in Jesus? Do we say Jesus is going to take care of this situation? I remember many times in my life it would come up that, it was confusing and I didn't know what was going to happen, and I just had to say, Jesus, you're the one. And it always works out that Jesus does show us the way when we trust in Jesus, when we have that faith in Jesus. Another example is in Matthew chapter 16, and this is verse 8. And Jesus was teaching about the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the apostles thought he was talking about the fact that they did not bring bread. So, again, many times the apostles get it wrong. Well, think of the leaven of the Pharisees. Well, they're looking around. Well, where's the bread? Jesus is talking about leaven. Maybe we need more bread. And, what's this leaven bit there? When Jesus became aware of this, he says, "Oh, you have little faith. Why do you conclude among yourselves that because you have no bread? You're not listening to me. Why don't you place your faith in me?" And this is Jesus who, of course, in situations where there was no bread, he multiplied bread. So, again, you're going to say to yourself, well, why wouldn't you trust in Jesus? I mean, he's done this already about the bread. Well, why are you concerned? And he's not even talking about that to begin with. Why don't you place your faith in Jesus instead of yourselves having to worry about getting bread? And again, it's something that maybe was more tangible, something they could control and work on, whereas the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees, maybe they were confused about that. And so let's work on what we can control and not listen to Jesus and have faith in Jesus. In Matthew chapter 17, verse 20, Jesus heals a boy who was possessed with a demon. And the disciples asked Jesus, well, why weren't we able to cure him? Jesus, you cured him. We tried to cure him. We failed. We didn't do a good job with it. You had no problem. What about us? Why is it that we couldn't do that? Because we're your followers and we do what you say and we try to follow you. But Jesus says the reason is simple. Because of your little faith. Amen, I say to you, Jesus says, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, little tiny seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you if you have faith. But again, there's a big if. If you have faith. A lot of us would say, well, I don't think I can move mountains. Can't get it done. No. But maybe there are mountains of hatred, mountains of indifference that surround us that maybe we can move if we have faith, if we follow Jesus, if we persevere, if we don't give up, if we have patience. Instead of saying, well, I can't do this. Jesus, it's too impossible. I mean, this moving mountains thing, I just can't handle that. It's too big an ask. But with Jesus, is there any ask that is too big if we have that faith? So when we look at these passages, and we look at the passage from chapter 6 about the possessions and the grass of the field and how it's clothed, and we look at that and Jesus says, well, look at that, have faith, trust. I think we reflect on the important issue for us, which is, do we really have faith in Jesus? Do we just say we do? And really kind of think, well, I'm really in control. I got I got the situation down, no problem. Or do we really say, yes, Jesus, you will be with me. You will show me the way. I'm going to put my faith in you. Those doubts about my own abilities, those doubts about having enough material things, those doubts about working for justice in our society, all those doubts. Let me just say, Jesus, you have the way. I'm going to follow you. And I'm going to put my faith, my trust, my life in the hands of Jesus.